Hello, I'm Ashley Stremme and we're at Port Royal Speedway and we are with the man from Mifflintown. That's right, most of you know him as Keith Kauffman and his wife, the First Lady, Kathy Kauffman. To me, I know them as Becky's mom and dad. So we're gonna jump right into the thick of things and I'm gonna start with Kathy. How did you and Keith meet?
Well, actually, we had a friend in common and they brought me to the racetrack to meet Keith. And I got to look at him through the infield, look at him up on his trailer. And then I guess we went to a party after that. And then from that time on, we started dating.
Perfect. And then straight into the love of racing. So you jumped right into it.
I did.
And I really want to talk about that just a little bit. And Keith, you can chime in too. You were on the road with the World of Outlaws, doing some traveling on the road. Kathy, you were at home raising two kids. You were on the road for a little bit at the beginning, and then when Becky started school, you called home base all the time. And then you were also running a restaurant at the time, Kauffman's Restaurant. Talk about what that was like for the two of you raising two kids and you traveling on the road constantly.
Yeah, I got in a lot of trouble for buying that restaurant because that wasn't the right thing to do. But yeah, no, we got our feet wet with that a little bit and tried that, and it was kind of fun and exciting. Kids were probably a little bit too young for that. It kept her too busy because we come home and work a while, then I take off and go race and let her there by herself. So that wasn't always the best thing, but it worked out.
And Kathy, just from a wife's perspective, you know, raising two kids, knowing that you're having to support him while he's on the road, that was before the life of cell phones. Basically, how did you guys communicate and keep it going?
It wasn't very easy, but it was his job, so we just did what we had to do to make it work. I wanted to go along, but you couldn't always do that because our children were in school. But we got to go in the summer, so that made it fun.
Absolutely. Well, Keith, 309 wins to your career. 129 of those come right here at Port Royal Speedway. The #1 winner, you still hold that torch on that one there, and pretty impressive. What was it like? Me growing up, you were just always Keith to me. You were Becky's dad. I didn't really respect what you were doing at the time, and now I look back and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's Keith Kauffman, the man from Mifflintown, my hometown. And just talk about what it was like really putting this place on the map. This town was a small town, small community, and you were the man from Mifflintown, and you were kind of carrying them on your shoulders, per se, in the sense of they really needed you to put them on the map, and you did just that.
Well, I don't know, I liked the racing, and you know, the racetrack was close to the house, and went to the races as a fan before I started racing, so, and just got interested in and started racing, and one thing led to another and another, and just up through the ranks, and you know, got a little better each year, win a race here, win a race there, and then, you know, got laid off. I worked construction, got laid off, and I thought, well, this is a good time. I'll just race this summer and see how that goes. So ended up doing that for about 20 years, so it worked out okay.
Worked out all right.
So, yeah.
And National Sprint Car Hall of Famer, of course, and some pretty impressive car owners over the year, guys like Al Hamilton, Walt Dyer, Roy Morrill, and of course, Bob Weichert. Is there one that you enjoyed racing for the most, and why?
Well, they all have their little ins and outs, but you know, the guys that you win the most races with and had the fastest cars, those are the ones you had the most fun with. So, you know, and there was a lot of them. So
That's right.
I hate to put one on #1, but Weichert's car, for instance, I was probably in that 3 or 4 different times over my career, so, and won a lot of races. And Bob was a heck of a character, so it was a lot of fun.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Speaking of you, I know that you were fired, then rehired, and like you said, Bob was a character. He was larger than life for sure with his attitude. Just talk about what that was like, you know, when they come back and say, hey, we need you guys back in my car.
Well, I don't know how many times it was, but I'm thinking around 3 times probably I've been in that car over my career. And, you know, we won a lot of races every time I was in it. And it was funny, something would happen. I don't know, he'd get mad or I'd get mad, and then we'd split up or go someplace else, or something happened. I can't even remember what all the stories were, but then after a bit, well, here we went back again, you know, try another round, you know. But it was always pretty exciting, and he was a very exciting individual. So, you know, he told a lot of stories, liked to wind the people up, and, you know, he liked to see his car go fast.
And Kathy, from your perspective, that car owner change, when it would happen, how rough was that for you? I mean, did you really have to be a cheerleader for Keith to keep his morale up, going, hey, don't worry, there's going to be another car that comes open?
No, not really. He always had a pretty positive attitude, and we never burned bridges. We always stayed friends with everybody we raced with. I don't know that we ever had a situation where we couldn't have gone back to a car owner if we wanted to, but we have a lot of good times with the owners and their families. Everything's family oriented when you're on the road. So
absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned on the road. I've got some really good stories that involve you on the road, and I've got to ask, I was told that you ran over Keith's helmet bag with the motorhome.
Yes, we were in South Dakota, and I guess Keith parked the motorhome and got out and went to get his pass, and I was in the motorhome with the kids, and we were out and the kids were playing, and this cop came over and he said, you're going to have to move the motorhome. And I said, well, I can't. My husband just went in there. I can't move it. And he said, well, you're going to have to move it or we're going to kick him out. So I just jumped in the motorhome and I said, all you kids go over there and stand together. So I'm looking over there watching the kids, and all of a sudden I feel this bump, and I'm like, oh my goodness, did I hit somebody? What happened? And I didn't think too much more of it because I couldn't find anything. Well, then Keith came out, grabbed his helmet bag, went in to go race, and I'm sitting there with Doug Wolfgang's wife, and we're watching, and I'm going, Jerry, why does Keith have Doug's helmet on? And then Doug would come around and Doug would have his helmet on, and they'd both be going around and around. After the race, Keith comes out, and when he's mad, you can usually tell there's red in his eyes. And he said, what did you do to my helmet? I said, why? And it was crushed. Here I had run over his helmet bag and destroyed everything, so he had to borrow a helmet for that race.
And for those of you who don't know Keith, is very melancholy. He doesn't get too spun out about anything, which I want you to answer this question. Because again, this is before the age of cell phones. Kathy left you at a racetrack.
Yes. Yeah.
And I heard you weren't too pleased about that.
Yeah, that was before they had cell phones. It was at, I think it was Punta Gorda, Florida. I was standing in line waiting for the payoff. And I don't know, I think I rode down in the race truck, and they thought I was going back with Kathy in the car, and here everybody left, and there I stood. There wasn't anybody there, and I think Jimmy Sills was there, and of course we didn't have cell phones back then, so you couldn't really call.
Right.
I mean, staying in a motel, I didn't know what the address was or actually the name or number, so I found Jimmy Sills. I said, I'm kind of in trouble. Can you help me out? He said, yeah, sure. So you can bunk in with me. So I just bunked in with him and didn't call or nothing, and got him to run me up there the next day.
And then it was about 4 hours down the highway, so I was at the motel waiting for the rig to pull in. And then when they did and he wasn't with them, I'm like, oh my. So then the next day, he wasn't very happy. He saw red that day too. And everybody that was in the motorhome just cleared out because they saw, he's like, you left me at the track. The lights were off. Nobody was there. I had my payoff.
I love it. That is phenomenal. And Kathy, you're phenomenal with producing these segues for me. You talk about 4 hours. I heard that you and the kids were headed to Ohio to the Kenny Jacobs family. And you headed 4 hours in the wrong direction, and you didn't realize it till the kids said, Mom, that sign says welcome to Indiana.
Yes, I did. I took the wrong turn. And we were to be at Jacobs for supper. And I had to call Kim and say, we're going to be about 4 hours late. We went the wrong way. So I did that too.
I absolutely love it. And that's, like you said earlier, this sport is so much about family and just what we've created in this little niche community of racing and just how tight we are. And Keith, you're so well respected around this area. You have the grandstands named after you, a section of them, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. And you guys are still involved with Port Royal Speedway today. Tell me what you guys do today.
Actually,
go ahead.
Okay, I helped to get the novelty stand started. They really didn't have anybody that was handling it, so I said I would help them get it going when we stopped racing. So I'm still here getting it going, and it's doing really well. We have a lot of fans. Everybody seems so happy with all the improvements that are being made, and
and I come along and help her now. So she
there you go.
chased me all over the country, so now I just come and help her.
He
And go sit in the grandstand and watch the races.
And Keith, that probably really relates back to the beginning here for you, essentially selling tickets and peanuts at the racetrack when you first started here at Port Royal Speedway?
Yeah, a lot of people probably don't know that, but my dad was on the fair board years ago, and I used to come over here with him, and he would help out here at the racetrack, you know, just like they're doing now. Of course, I tagged along, and then I started selling tickets at the gate and sold cushions on the old grandstand. So, you know, just trying to make a couple bucks and keep me out of trouble from running around all over the place. So, you know, that give me something to do. But I actually did do that, sell tickets and worked there at the racetrack before I even started racing.
Awesome. And, you know, you started your own car with the Blue Deuce, and then you ran for Grunegers. And like we said, the car owner list is phenomenal for who you've been behind. But I want to ask you personally, what's probably the best race you've ever watched?
Well, I don't get to watch many races back when you're racing, but you know, any of the races like that, they always ask that question. Anytime you win, it's always good, you know. And there were some big races, and there were some big races I lost too. So I don't really pick one out, but a lot of them were fun. They were all fun when you win.
So one last final question before we wrap up. So what does the daily lifestyle for Keith and Kathy Kauffman look like now? I know we have some grandbabies running around and more on the way. So what's it like for Mimi and Papa, so to speak?
Gaga and Pappy.
Gaga and Pappy, okay.
Gaga and Pappy.
Unfortunately, we're both still working, so we got to get up and go to work like everybody else. You know, we do have jobs. I work for PennDOT, plow snow in the wintertime, work on the roads in the summertime. Kathy actually works for the state, so we're still doing that and spending a lot of time at home and have some grandkids, so that's fun too.
So Keith, you've won numerous races over the years. What is one race that probably means the most to you, and probably one that got away from you that you wish you could actually put your name aside?
Well, there's a couple of them we won. I got real close one time to winning 100,000 at Eldora, and motor blew up close to the end, and probably was going to win that race. Nothing's for sure, but that would have been a big one and a real nice one. And Ashley had to start last, and that thing just barely made the race. And I don't know. There's been a lot of them that's got away, but I never got to win the Williams Grove Nationals. You know, I've been close, run second 2 or 3 times, but never got to win that race. And one night almost, but not quite. But got crashed out, but there's a couple of the races that things like that happen.
Well, you talk about the motor, and that brings me to my next question. You won at Knoxville with the World of Outlaws, and if I understand correctly, you were the one who kind of made the rule change in the motor division there. Davey Brown built you a modified motor for that racetrack, and you actually won, and that's when they were kind of like, we need to kind of X-nay these motors being run with the sprint cars.
Well, that was back in the big block days, and it was in the '77 car, Al Hamilton car. And they used to have a couple of races, or a race or two at the end of the year, the end of the season, which that would have been in September, October. Outlaw races. We went after her one time and really kicked her butt pretty bad. You know, knocked 20 seconds off the track record, and, you know, almost lapped the field, went nonstop. And for some reason, then they outlawed the big blocks for the next year.
For some reason. Kathy, what's probably one of the greatest wins that you can kind of chalk up in your memory that Keith has put his name beside?
I don't know, all of them. It's always fun to win.
That's exactly right.
It is. Yeah.
Good?
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yes. Okay.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
appreciate it.